Welcome to my YouTube channel, Max.
Thanks, Anthony.
Anyway, this is Max's first time on my YouTube channel. It's actually my first time too. It's interesting.
It's really gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We can edit all of this later, so or maybe not. Maybe we'll just put it up just like this.
Maybe so.
This might be so much better than me doing my first video on my own. So, I'm not
Well,
nearly as
glad to be
nervous.
part of it.
Yeah, I'm not nearly as nervous now. It was really funny making videos for the past, I guess I've been out here for like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually nervous talking to myself sitting outside.
I've done that before.
Really?
Yeah. I recently wrote a couple love letters to myself.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever done that before?
No, I'm going to now though.
Oh yeah. It gets weird, but then it becomes okay, and then you start to really come into some internal, connection.
So writing love letters to yourself, how many have you completed?
I've been a slacker. I've only done about 3, maybe 4, and some of them been kind of shorthand. But when done with a purpose, like even some of the most menial things, it seems it could be the communication in a external relationship where it doesn't matter what the words you say are. It's just that the meaning is there. The message can be put across. So,
what do you feel like you've learned from that so far? Or I guess taken away from it?
That it's okay to just like every part of you, or me. That it's not egotistical at all. It's just revamping your self-efficacy, your self-confidence, and your self-esteem in any sort of way. Because even if you're faking it till you make it, saying I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, and just over and over again, like looking at yourself in the mirror, you're gonna start to really let it sink in, and after that, it kind of spreads out to all the different aspects of your life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the first letter like when you first started?
I did not take it seriously. I was like writing to a brother, somebody that I love him to death, but I'm not gonna be caught like in a extra long hug. We were bros together, but even though I don't have a brother, that's what it was like. And I would say things like, "You carpe diem the hell out of this day," or the hell out of your life. And then when other people were sharing some of their, because it was a group exercise, when they were actually very intimate with their love letters, and realized that is a connection that I don't really have with myself, and therefore I'm not able to create that with other people too.
Yeah. So this is something that you learned from MITT?
Yeah, actually, there was one of the random exercises that they had us do that didn't seem like it was going to have any purpose whatsoever, but actually turned out to be halfway decent.
Halfway decent.
Yeah.
It's good. I try to journal, or journal sometimes, diary, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I find myself doing is I'll point out things I don't like about myself too.
Yeah.
And I almost can't help it when I'm writing to add some things that I want to improve, but I don't necessarily frame it in the mindset of I'm going to improve this every time. I kind of just say it and put it out there, and I don't know how beneficial that actually is. Or if you should gear your writing more toward that. That's a new idea to me, to write a letter to yourself, a love letter to yourself.
Well, it sort of goes along the lines of your subconscious is always listening to whether it's something that you're saying verbally out loud, or it goes as far as to the music you listen to on the radio. Watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become behaviors, and watch your behavior because that becomes your destiny. And so it all starts with those little things that we don't necessarily have an effective way of, not necessarily shielding or guarding, but at least making sure, does this thought help me or serve me in any way? And I would say that if you are saying that you want to improve something, like if you're getting it in writing, or if you're getting it in an active thought, like a working memory, then it'll start to come out in various ways, because your subconscious is like the helm of your ship, and the words and the thoughts that you have are the ones steering it.
Right. What are some other things that you've experienced in MITT that, like that, or that you think were helpful, like exercises?
Well, I can tell you some of the effects. I'm not going to go into a lot of details with the exercises because like being there in the moment and experiencing it for the first time. She was not expecting us to be here, and she's going to come in. Nope. Some of the exercises could be where you really can't think about what you're doing, like sort of bombarded with distractions, but like really inquisitive questions, just to give short verbal responses that you don't really know what to say. They're just coming out.
Like diarrhea of the mouth type.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're doing something else to keep you distracted at the same time, using another part of your brain.
Mm-hmm. And so you take away the active part of your memory, or your thinking, and so like I realize that I try to figure things out before diving in, or I need to know the process or need to know the desired outcome so I can gauge my success, rather than just completely being liberated and letting go of control of any particular outcome, so I can be present in the activity. Or
also trying to, so it sounds like also that they're trying to help you not craft what you're going to say, so that not only is it so it's more genuine when you do say it, but you're not crafting it to a desired outcome, like protecting your ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same idea as people don't always say what they mean, and people don't always mean what they say, and a lot of that comes across on a subconscious level, I think, because we have a desire of the image that we want to maintain, and so we're going to say things that will align with that image and with that construct,
mm-hmm.
despite the fact that the outside perception of us, like the world's view of us, is completely different from the ideal image that we have in our head. And that's a very interesting pill to swallow, when there's such a disparity in what you think you look like and what you're trying to portray yourself as, and then the reception of those same efforts.
So do you think that's one of the biggest things in your experience the past year or so, is really like tackling the self and the ego and figuring out how to deconstruct some of the crafting you've done on who you think you are and who you are trying to portray yourself to be?
Yeah, like when I first went into the first basic training, I kept asking, like, what do you want to get out of this? What at the end of your weekend will you have accomplished by being here, and being intentional about it? And one of the first things I wrote down was just ego death. You know, like what that means. You know, where you completely take away your agenda or your intentions to surpass any others because of like recognition or on the surface, and because and what I learned that is you can have egolessness while trying to serve people. Because a lot of times I was getting into some nasty rabbit holes, like when we give blood, for example.
Yeah.
We're doing it to make ourselves feel good, because it's when you're charitous or you are philanthropic, then you feel better about yourself. You are a worthy human in the eyes of the world.
Right.
But isn't that not a form of narcissism, you know, or ego, mm-hmm. By attaching yourself to any particular action, your ideal of self, and so. But what I learned is that unconditional love, for example, is something that can be overpowering the level of egoism. Like egoism can be diminished to only to a certain extent. I don't know. It could be diminished all the way, but the replacement of that actually has to be an ideal. Like it's not just the absence of egoism or ego or so, for example, ego death. It won't really, in my mind, give any type of fulfillment in life unless it's actually replaced by something like unconditional love. or just love. You can define it any way you want to, but and that also taking the place of fear.
It's very interesting. Now you're making me ponder.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Is that the point of these YouTube channels?
Yeah, I think that that was great, because the whole point is I want to provoke discussion that may help other people and talk about a lot of things. So one of my first thoughts with this was to cover a lot of the topics we covered with students in the LEAD program at West Virginia University.
Yeah.
And to relay that in more of a YouTube type discussion kind of way, where we'll post videos about like leadership, the experience, awareness, and making a difference. And then, you know, also at the same time recognize things like this. Like I love that you actually brought up image crafting and like the ego, because that's one of the biggest things I want to talk to people about.
No way.
Yeah. So
perfect.
It just came out in conversation. See, the ego always comes out.
Put your ego back in your
pants.
Put it
back in my bag. No, but I also want them to be weird and quirky, and kind of show a little bit of the personality of the people that I get to hang around with. So it's really funny that you walked out here, because I planned on interviewing at some point. I didn't plan on doing it this early, but I planned to interview some of the people in our organization that are doing great things, because everyone is into so much and has different personality types and a variety of backgrounds.
Yeah, you guys are in for a treat.
Yeah. So this is Max Clark, by the way. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Southern California.
Oh man, so I'll try to be as bullet and laser in fashion as possible. So during the
this could get convoluted.
4.5-5 years of college, of being at a pretty decent school, and being involved in the sales internship program, where LEAD was constructed and founded. It was 5 years of making myself look good as much as possible, and through sales achievements and leadership positions.
Right.
When after that 5 years was up, I was like ready to step away, because that sort of created a negative power, thinking that I could control people or things or situations. That was really when the ego is at all-time high. And so it took a year to travel across the United States, reconnect with friends and family, cut out on drinking and partying completely, and how good my life could be, and it turned out pretty well. And then it just sort of was on a steady incline, and great things were happening. A lot of synchronicity. I don't know if you're ever going to talk about that in this podcast. But synchronicity and ideas and people coming back together and being all in the same place, and ideas formulating, and I was following my internal compass instead of my ego-driven compass over the course of this year, and just ended up back here in California right at the end of August, right after I committed, when everybody, the people you'll meet, 14 or 15 of us, driven out here and ready to embark on this new journey. And just knowing, and the MITT process has sort of been just very complimentary, kind of reminding myself that I still can conquer the world in an egoless way, you know, instead of, because it's really difficult to maintain or to even grasp, wanting to take over the world, which seems like an insanely ego-driven concept, and taking that out of it, can it still exist? And that'll be an interesting topic of conversation. And so now we're here. Now we're creating something. We're creating the unknown, making the unknown known. That was a quote actually for the day.
Yeah, I've heard that quote before.
There is no like success or failure in life. There is only making the unknown known.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Georgia O'Keeffe.
Georgia O'Keeffe.
That's you can fact check me on that, but I read that today.
Yeah, I've heard the quote before. I think our experience down here in